This is a very complicated movie in all kinds of ways. The number of intersecting stories are all commentaries on each other. Obviously, one of the central themes of the movie is the theme about love and forgiveness. In every single one of the main characters, I believe, the theme of forgiveness looms especially large. The complexity of the scene perhaps comes out most immediately if you think about the song that Jody is singing in the background as Melissa is leaving from her mother's house for the very last time and burning it. The song that Jody's singing, and Jody, of course, is the character who's been a street performer and finally gets a gig in Manhattan. Toward the end of the movie, she's the real-life singer Jill Sobule.
Melissa. I'm glad I caught you before you left. This is from Doc Richards for your mama. How's she feeling?
She's out down at the plant today.
Oh, well, for the road, I guess. I forgot. No animal products of any kind, not even bacon or steak or...
I'll take it. She'll be here when she gets back.
Well, that's not the surprise. Could I come in?
Oh, I'm so busy, Doc. I'm packing. Sure. Why not? Come on, I'm just packing. Oh, come on. I'm just packing. Come on. Oh, Doc, you shouldn't have.
It's a special going-away gift, but I don't want you to open it till you get to wherever it is you're going. Okay?
You got it. Thank you.
Wow. What's this?
Oh, that's my little art project. They're all women who are raped and their mothers, and the rapists and their mothers.
Why'd you do this?
I don't know. Just thought it would make an interesting collage.
You ever, you know.
Raped? God, no.
How come you put up the pictures of the mothers and the rapists?
Well, they're people too, right? I mean, they did an unspeakably horrible thing, but they're human and have real, live, living, breathing mothers who love them like they were little innocent boys still.
Yeah, but they're not.
But for the grace of God go us, right, Doc?
Yeah. I guess so. I should let you get packing. I just wanted to drop that off.
Awfully sweet of you, Doc. Okay.
Goodbye, Melissa.
You mind the gap, Doc.
What's that mean?
That's how they say goodbye in London, England. Mind the gap. It's for Chiba in China, mind the gap in England.
Okay, then. Well, you mind the gap, too, I guess. I'll see you.
natural could come between enamored mortals such as we. The winds may blow us far apart, but nothing will undo our hearts. No matter how far I wander, what stars I'm under, I'll always come back to you. Nothing natural could turn the tide that washes over both our lives. By day we'll burn, by night we'll rust, and who knows what becomes of us. No matter how far I'll tumble, what spell I'm under, I'll always come back to you. To you. To you. To you. To you. No matter how far I wander, what stars I'm under, I'll always come back to you. No matter how far I tumble, what spell I'm under, I'll always come back to you.
The song that Jody's singing in the background is a song about always returning at the very moment when you might think that Melissa is departing for good. I'll always come back to you. Whatever stars I wander beneath, you will always be the person to whom I return. What we see burning is not just this broken down trailer, but we see Melissa's own project of working through the problems of forgiveness, what she calls to the optometrist who sees so little, what she calls her little collage, with pictures on it of rapists and the women they've raped, and the mothers of the women and of the rapists. It's only at the very end there of the movie that we finally put together all the pieces, and we understand a bit more of Melissa's own story and of why forgiveness plays such a crucial but also very complicated role in her life. Why, for her, the ability to depart, to go and live her own life, to leave the mother who says she hates her, is the way that she works through that final forgiveness of her mother. It turns out that until just before her mother dies, she did not have any pictures of her mother. And indeed, she also had no pictures of her mother's mother. Her mom is looking at a photo album, and Melissa picks it up and discovers there the pictures that she needed to complete the collage. A picture of her own mother, a victim of a rape, and of her mother's mother. And there's one last picture that she needs too. It's the picture that after her mother has died, Melissa goes to retrieve. The picture that she gets of Sadie, the woman who she's known all these years and speaks to every day at the diner. Sadie, it turns out, is the mother of the man who raped Melissa's mother, one Mr. Richards, the wealthy man who tries to invite Melissa to have a conversation, but whom Melissa finally refuses. So in that scene that we saw, we have these intersecting stories, stories that show that an inability to forgive, often when after all there's been a terrible hurt, a terrible insult, indeed even a terrible crime committed against us, can become for us an obstacle to our going on loving. The story of John runs the same sort of problem, but now not from the point of view of the person who must give forgiveness, but rather from the point of view of the person who must ask for it. In the scene with the priest, after John has rather half-heartedly tried to commit suicide to ease his own pain, to take control of his life, John learns that what he needs to do to re-enter his own life, not to take control of it, but simply to live it, is to ask those whom he has harmed for forgiveness. He has to give up the sense of himself, at least as his priest understands it, his sense of himself as in control of the situation, by being the big man who says he's sorry, who feels so bad. He has to give up that picture of himself, and he has to go to those he's harmed, particularly to his wife and to his child, and ask them for a gift. He has to stand before them as someone who needs to receive, not as someone who needs to give. So the stories intersect in complicated ways. The other main storylines as well have a lot to do with someone coming to terms with mortality, with death, and with the way that coming to those terms plays some crucial role in living out one's life, in inhabiting one's life. A theme that also runs through this particular movie that we've seen already in many things that we've read or seen so far is the theme of the connection between love and reproduction, love and children particularly. In that extraordinary final scene in the hospital when Melissa is going to have herself sterilized so that she is never faced with the life decision her mother was when she became pregnant by a rapist. It turns out that this rather wise, Yoda-like little boy with the shaved head, Rocky, wanders into her room. And in the kind of thing that happens in a movie a lot more than it does in real life, where we discover at that moment an extraordinary hidden intimacy between Rocky and Melissa. Rocky doesn't like eyeglasses any more than Melissa does. And he spontaneously offers to do the very thing with the eyeglasses that we've seen Melissa do at the beginning of the movie, to stomp on them. Until that moment in the movie, though we've had hints, I think we didn't fully see, we didn't yet realize that it was Melissa's egg, purchased over the internet, that produced Rocky's life. What Melissa comes to in the very final scene then, it's not the last scene in the movie, but the last scene with her. What Melissa comes to is a fuller forgiveness of her own mother. And indeed, you might say, a fuller forgiveness of herself for being so destructive of her mother's life, innocently, but still certainly. When Melissa reaches that full forgiveness, she is not willing any longer to sterilize herself, to deprive herself of fertility, in order to control the exposure in her life to being injured, to being harmed, to being hurt. I think that this movie requires certainly more than one viewing. It requires us to replay it in our own minds and to make the connections among the different storylines. I've hardly had time to mention here the storyline about Sam and Vicky, or the storyline about Jody, the singer. All of these storylines are meant to give us the sense, as a movie often gives us, that our lives are much more connected to others than we might have expected. In this particular movie, the heart of that connection is the need that we all have for forgiveness. Whether that need is primarily to give forgiveness or primarily to ask for it, to be willing to accept it as a gift. Not as something we're owed, not as something we control, as something, rather, that we're exposed to, that we're receptive of. Mind the Gap, the title of the movie, is something that Melissa doesn't understand until the very, very end, when we see her finally on a subway, still in New York, and she understands that minding the gap is not a way of saying goodbye, it's a way of saying be careful. Something that for her has always been an emblem of how wide open the world is, even though she's stuck in this horrible place in North Carolina. Not that all places in North Carolina are horrible. She's stranded there. She's stranded there out of love for her mother. She tries to experience the largeness of the world, its openness, through these tapes that she sends off, one of which she sends to London, and hears the phrase, mind the gap. But she thinks that it means goodbye. How could she have known that the phrase that she's taken as an emblem of her own departure is in fact an emblem of wariness or of safety? I don't suppose that in the end one can line up all the complicated pieces in this movie into something that looks like an answer. But I think that the movie's excellence, indeed I think in some ways the movie's greatness, comes in the variety of ways it can make us ask a particular question. A question about how much forgiving others and how much forgiving of ourselves might be necessary to live a life that's full of love. Jody is so afraid of love that she prefers to make her heart beat physically by running wind sprints with her pacemaker than she does to take the chances of failure, of exposure, that for her are all bound together in the notion of going to Manhattan. The repeating image that is both comical and disturbing of the street dancer in Times Square. How does one take that in the movie? In what spirit? I suppose that for me, and I don't insist that you take it this way, I see that image of the street dancer who, after all, is dancing with a mannequin. I see that recurrent image by looking through the eyes of Antoine from the hairdresser's husband. Of course, there's something fake about that street dancer. But his willingness to keep at the dance, to me, is emblematic not of something I want to view cynically, not of something that shows that these lives are all fake, but something that I want to take in the way I wanted to take Antoine's dancing too, as an emblem of a possibility in life, a possibility that, of course, goes with a recognition of all sorts of dangers, all sorts of exposures. But yet, in the last scene, when Melissa sees that dancer, that street dancer with his mannequin, and watches him, she's filled, I think, with some consternation about what an odd place New York City is, but also with a certain sense of exhilaration, that at last her ability to find forgiveness for her mother and for herself has opened her up to a new world. Not an easier world, but a broader world and a brighter world. On Wednesday, we'll take a look at the way Andre Dubus opens up a character to a broader world and a brighter world in his story, All the Time in the World. When you read Dubus's short story, I would also like you to read the encyclical Humanae Vitae. The story is more than just a commentary on the encyclical, but without the encyclical, the story would not have been possible. See you then.